Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of KSP Diaries. This one is really special for us because it's all about thinking out of the box for kids. And it's only been possible because of the team at Kahani Karnival who've been very kind to us and have come here with us to talk about how we can make this possible for our kids in their day-to-day lives as well. And Kahani Karnival happens on the 17th of January in Mumbai at the Pavdaji Lad Museum. So please save the date and no excuses for attending this one. With us we have today four lovely ladies who I'm extremely intimidated by right now because they're very profound in their genres of creativity. Right here is Shinibali, who is one of the core team members of Kahani Karnival. Shini has worked with the Telegraph, Indian Express, Time Out, and Mint. And she, along with being an independent writer, she has also worked on projects with UNICEF. And of course, like she said before we began this hangout, that her main focus is to work on Kahani Karnival right now, which is a not-for-profit organization that wants to spread the joy of stories to children. Next on, we have Madhumita. Now, she's got quite a lot to her credits. I have a long bio for her. She's obviously got her master's degree in architecture from the University of Michigan, followed by a master's in fine art. And Madhu has been a visual designer for video, web, and print media projects both in the US and in India. She has been teaching for the last 15 years and has conducted art workshops for children at the Prince of Wales Museum, the Bandra Festival, Ecole Mondiale School, and the Pomegranate Workshop, among others. Next on, we have Natasha, who calls herself a trash magnet. And she believes that today's leftovers can be composted to make tomorrow's meals. Now, that one I'm really looking forward to, so, and I'm sure you are too. To my right is a very interesting person who comes from Sound Space. She and her sister, so she's Kamakshi and her sister is Vishala. They together have a school, a music school called the Sound Space, and they have been mentoring and familiarizing little people to the incredible world of Hindustani classical music. So, ladies, really nervous, excited, or all ready to go? All ready to go. All ready to go. Also joining us, joining us on this hangout, we have two lovely moms and entrepreneurs, both in different time zones. We have Meetu, who is joining us from Delhi, and we have Sangeeta, who's joining us from Zurich, where it's 6:30 a.m. So thank you so much, Sangeeta, for joining in. And before we go ahead, let's give ourselves a huge round of applause. Okay, Shini, obviously the first question goes out to you. How did the idea come about?
Well, the idea came about initially. We were very inspired with what Buckaroo was doing in Delhi. So we got together, and initially the idea was to do something like Buckaroo, the festival that happens, the literature festival for children that happens in Delhi. And all of us had that. There are 5 of us in Kahani Karnival,
right,
and all of us have children,
right,
and all of us wanted them to read, at least, pick up books, pick up interesting books. And the idea initially started with doing a children's literature festival in Bombay, and then we realized, we started meeting people that, if we just restricted it to books, we didn't know how many kids would actually come in.
Right.
So then we said, let's think a little out of the box and make books the core idea, but story is the core idea, and do it through multidisciplinary arts. Right. So the story will always be the main thing, but how do you tell a story through, let's say, music, or let's say through trash, or through art, or through dance? We've had people telling stories through puppets. We've had people telling stories through Odissi dance. Okay. So the idea was that you get them to a book, but do it through different means. And that's how Kahani Karnival developed.
Right.
So last year was our first edition. And
how has this year been?
Yeah, so last year we were overwhelmed because we didn't have any money. We put in our own resources. Just the day before we were, the day before the festival, we had a sponsor coming in and meeting the bare bones cost, which kind of saved us our money. And but that was it. And then, but the response we got was absolutely overwhelming. We went thinking it would be a smallish thing. Even if we got 300 or 350 parents and kids, it would be a big thing. We had more than 2,000 people attending last year.
That's something.
I mean, even we didn't. And we didn't, like I said, it was word of mouth. Because we didn't have money, it was social media and WhatsApp groups.
Yeah.
So, everyone told their friends and relatives, and that's how it spread. And, well, this year, what's different is that we've taken the idea of multidisciplinary arts a little further. And what's helped us is that, okay, so last year after the festival happened, Bhaudaji Lad Museum, which does fantastic work in arts, and they've been doing really great work even with kids.
I've been watching them. Their stuff, their workshops, their Friday workshops, so are very good.
And especially for children, they have. So they have been following our Facebook page because we actually have that. That's the only way to communicate with us. We don't have money for a website, so it's just the Facebook page that keeps us alive. And we started discussing with them, and they were very interested. So what's really exciting this year is that Bhaudaji Lad decided to present us. So they are the ones who are funding us, and they're funding us through the year. And there's not going to be one Kahani Carnival; they're going to be 4 Kahani Carnival.
Yes, that's
wonderful. So this is the first one, the biggie. So it will be 2 days, and it starts on the 16th. This year we've extended it, the first one, and it opens with Kamakshi. She's going to be doing a concert. Soundspace will open it with a concert done by children, Indian classical music. And then 17th it will be the entire day.
Yeah.
The 3 Kahanis subsequently will be each quarter, and those will not be, like this one will have authors, it will have music, dance, puppetry, the works. But the next 3 will just concentrate on 2 things. So the next one, which happens in April, will just be a theatre festival for children. The one in August will be just art and literature. Art, literature and films. And the one in December will be music and dance. So it's, but the idea remains, and I mean, and what's fascinating is Bhaudaji is playing a very important role. They aren't just like, okay, we are funding you. They are doing some absolutely incredible workshops. One is going to be on maps. They have the best map collection in the city. So they are going to be doing something. They'll take the kids around.
I know. I remember they did this during the summer.
Right.
It was a huge.
It's fantastic. And what they are going, another workshop is Atul Dotia is showing at Bhaudaji Lad right now. So they have structured a special workshop for Kahani Karnival, which will take them around the works, show them, explain, and then they are going to get them to, replicate something. And the idea is, Atul Dotia's exhibition is also called 7,000 Museums. And it's inspired from works in Bhaudaji Lad and museums across the world. So it's created these lovely curiosity cabinets and all of that. So they're going to, children are going to draw from that, I mean, draw inspiration from that and create their own museums. And I'm looking ahead. I've in fact put my little one to attend that workshop.
So people need to register.
People need to register.
All the workshops that they would like to attend.
Yes.
If you'd like to look at the schedule, don't forget to visit it on Kidsstoppress.com, but make sure you definitely register before you head there. Madhu, coming to you, you've been, teaching art, working in the art space for a really long time. So do you feel like there is a conflict, in terms of creativity and time that parents feel today, or conflict between creativity and curriculum? Because parents today feel that creativity has to be very goal-oriented. So do you ever feel that restricts your discipline?
That's a lot of questions in one question. I will start by actually taking off from her for a minute before I answer questions. It's so heartening to see museums take a step towards children, because museums, it has been my experience, museums have been these hallowed spaces where if children enter, don't touch, don't go too near, don't do this. It's like you don't tell the adults, but you do tell the children, and it is great that Bhavdaji Lad is actually becoming a space where kids can come in and they're being taken, and they're not being either put down or being told that you're too small to understand that, and this is not your space, this is an adult space, because this is the kind of exposure we need. Right? Creativity doesn't have to be this huge, big cloud, big word, right? It's this like word. I think one needs to take like little steps, or children absorb everything, and you have to expose them constantly. Right. Drag them to museums. It doesn't matter if they don't understand 80% of it. They will ask questions that will lead to something else. Right. This city is amazing. It's got so many things going on. Don't spend the day at the mall. Yes. Don't spend the day at the mall. I am torn between. There are weekends that I'm torn. I don't know what to take.
That was exactly my point. Like 3.5 years before, when I started Kidsstoppress, people used to keep asking, "What is there in the city to do? What is there in the city to do?"
So much.
And today, I just feel like I don't have a single weekend free. So I don't understand how do people say that kuch nahi hai karne ke liye.
There are weekends I don't know which one to choose.
Exactly.
I'm being that parent who's dragging from one thing in the morning to the afternoon thing to the evening thing, and like the child is like, please, I can't take that. But there are tons of things. One, the neighborhoods themselves are doing festivals, like Bandra Festival had lots of stuff for it. It has a fabulous library that does a lot of things. Museums, Prince of Wales had a really nice interactive exhibition which came and went. I don't know how many people went to. Music and Goddess and something.
Yes, the Goddess
was fabulous. Take them. The city is such a great laboratory. You don't have to go to classes. You don't. And we went to the zoo in Bhavdaji Lad for the first time a couple of years back, and my daughter took her sketchbook with crayons. It doesn't matter, she drew carrots while we were surrounded by maps and no carrots at all. But it didn't matter, she was drawing. For me, what was interesting was she was sitting on the floor of a museum and drawing. That is, it doesn't need to all connect. The dots don't need to all connect and give you something at the end. It will all
connect eventually.
Well, it will all make the person that your child is going to be. She's going to be more aware, and for me, art is going to be the way art, and I mean art as in this. And I'm including literature, attune you to see things that you would otherwise pass by. Right. Just fine tune your seeing. The more you see, the more you hear, the actually more you notice. That's really what you want to do.
And the more you do then.
Yes.
It just comes to
I completely agree. At Kidsstoppress, we believe that it's all about exploring. Learning will happen.
It'll happen. It's organic. They see, they observe, and they pick up.
Let them lose. Let them lose. To a point. To a point. But let them lose, because it's like, I think we need to.
But do you feel like that whole thing about coming back to art, that you feel that you need to color within the confines, or you need to color within the
break the boundary?
Do you feel that's a big conflict in the minds of the parents?
It is, and schools are not going to change overnight. There are, of course, a lot of children now sending their kids to IB, and IB does this thing. But I have a child who's in a conventional school, and I've put blinkers on. Okay, she comes back. She has to do things in the line. She does it, and then I sort of uneducate her at home. I this thing. So she's going to be slightly confused sometimes. And there's Shinibali who told me she took her child to a museum and told them, look, none of these artists are coloring it in the line. So that's like total guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
But that's not going to change overnight, and you can't put a child into a conventional school and expect it to change overnight. And they've got to do things
I'll
their
add
way.
something here. There was a very interesting time when I was working in a school, and we had a child given a paper and asked the child to color, and the child colored the background, leaving the picture there. And I took a picture of that, and I said, this is so interesting, because the child hasn't colored what he's supposed to color. He just colored around the picture, and that was beautifully done.
Because
And
the
it's
adult puts the thing and says, you have to color there.
Yes.
The child does this intuitively. So
Yeah,
we sort of
absolutely.
condition them by 7 or 8. They're conditioned by 4 or 5. So I would say don't send them to art classes for a while.
For a long while.
For a long while. Before 6 or 7, definitely not. They don't need art classes. They just need exposure.
And very carefully, even if you are sending to a class, who is the teacher? It's not about learning your lines, learning to draw it straight, and learning to color within. You have to, even if you're sending to an art person, it should be, just letting you explore what you want to explore. And that's what doesn't happen.
giving the child
feel that, okay, I'll give you a simple example. I'm not, we all have our sort of comfort zones, right? Or we all have our set zones of expertise. Now, if I'm completely not, as a parent, not an art person, do you feel like, I will be able to still do justice to letting her explore, or have the ideas that, acha, creatively, she can do this, or these mediums.
Absolutely.
Or,
So I would say,
because I think that's a conflict in a lot of parents' minds, that, you have to have
Absolutely.
things in your zone, but what do you do about that?
No, absolutely. See, we have to demystify this whole art thing, right? Ultimately, a lot of the famous painters are untutored.
Right.
Okay? It's all intuition. Please, mind you, none of it is. And if they were going to art schools, they were breaking all the established rules there. They were rebelling.
Right.
Okay, so I would say let them be messy. Okay, expose them. I cannot tell you how much this thing. Expose them to everything. Everything. It doesn't matter whether it's doing little things at home, like glittering your diya. I'm saying, or making eyeballs for Halloween. All that. Like I'm just pulling things out of the mind where I've just done recently, or just anything that looks interesting.
Making trash cushions.
We're using Natasha.
Yes.
Let them be messy. This whole aspect of we have to clean and they have to be tidy and they have to, just it's a little bit of
Little bit more work, but let them.
No, and I think we need to stop overthinking it.
Yeah.
It is the overthinking part of it, and and there's lots of stuff with the internet. There is a lot of ideas afloat about what you can do.
Yeah. That's true.
Pinterest has
Pinterest, we keep sharing.
Fabulous.
In fact, we've got a lot of feedback that we wanted to want the children to explore, do arty stuff, but we also want them to do stuff which can be used. So again, I don't know if that's confining.
Okay, so define use, right?
No, in the sense that they have so much of art stuff, and what do you do? Like, how much can you collect, right? How much of your kids' artwork can you actually store? So can we do art yet make it a little bit reusable?
One very important thing I have to say is, when kids make art, they are fine breaking it.
Yes. I was just going to say,
Parents who want to keep. And it's like, when you make a sand castle, the whole beauty of it is to break it. And it's as much fun to destroy it.
Absolutely. Well said.
you have to take away the whole part of this end product bit.
Right.
If they're having fun, it's justified. True. It is really justified. We have to stop thinking, can we store it? Is it looking beautiful enough? Can it be put framed? Then you're sort of
confining them.
It's
boxing
fun.
everything up.
Yeah, and it's the process. Ultimately, I junk a lot of the stuff that she makes because I can't keep up.
Right.
She draws on like 20 pieces of paper one evening because she feels like it. I can't keep all 20.
Right.
Yeah,
But how do you then set benchmark that now you have to do better than this? Or how do you tell her to improve? Or how do you give direction that
again
from here where?
So I'll tell you one thing. It's not a question of better, because ultimately for me, each individual has its own capacity, right? So if each individual has their own capacity, the better you are your own benchmark. Okay, so ultimately you want them to gain confidence to take an idea that's happening here and be able to put it down there confidently. The skill anybody can teach. It's not about the skill. It's about being able to translate an idea onto the paper. How do you take something that's all jumbled up in your head and put it down? And that's what you want to teach. I don't know whether I'm being too abstract.
No, I get what you're saying.
So you want them. So for example, I will not teach my daughter to make mountains, but I will ask her to spin a story about the last place she visited or the imaginary place she wants to visit, and then put it down on paper.
Right.
So that's the difference. I don't want her to say make a mountain scene. I will say, what do you say? What kind of imaginary world can we visit and what will be in it? So then let her draw that out or paint it out or whatever, and then see what comes out, and then say, oh, do you think we could do this as well? Or, sort of nudge. You have to be nudgers, not like giving directive. Why isn't it pointy? Why is the tree green? Trees are orange and purple and all sorts of colors. Why does it have to be green?
That's true.
True. So we want to be nudgers.
Yeah.
Can I just say, my daughter drew a waterfall in rainbow colors. Okay.
Lovely.
So you have, in your house, you have everyone, right? So there are lots of other family members like, sorry, that's wrong. How can the waterfall have so many colors? And she came up with a line which blasted everyone. She's like, see, the sunlight is passing through, and then there was a rainbow, and everyone coming down. I thought, I don't know whether she really made up that line, but I thought, when you let them, as Madhumita so rightly said, just convert whatever's in their head on paper, you really get a masterpiece every time.
True, that's so true.
And you will be surprised
With
what they can
come up with.
I have not walked away from a single class without being surprised by most of the kids, and they've all done different things because they're not competing with each other. They are competing with what they can do within, bringing it out, and that's what I'm saying.
It's the
That's the bettering. That's the bettering. If you have to better, that's the bettering. Is that how do you push your child to put out more?
Right.
Not in terms of quantity, just what is going on
in there.
Translate those little
Lines.
abstract stuff that's holding and be able to visualize, to be able to, take all that stuff that's coming from a music here and this here and this here, or a James and a Giant Peach, or whatever story they've heard about something, and be able to create something completely their own.
Right. When you work with schools, is there a conflict with them telling you that this is what our curriculum is, this is what you got to do?
I don't work with schools. If schools call me, they call me for very specific things, and I usually am pretty clear about the kind of things I do.
Okay.
So I'm, I won't say buck the system, but I sort of come and say, this is what I'm doing. Are you comfortable with it? And this is what I will do. What do you have in mind? So it's a dialogue.
Yeah.
You can't. With schools you can't. You are putting them.
So I don't work in any schools anymore.
You have to
but
counter. I mean, it's
You can't, because you cannot have a lesson plan for a music class.
absolutely.
I mean, I couldn't do it. I did it for 3 years, and I said, this is not the truth that I'm putting down here, It's what you want to read. So, which is why now I don't teach in schools anymore. I do specific workshops and specific things that I'm comfortable, or we are comfortable.
I am teaching in a design college, which is completely different. So that's different.
Like a music school. I'm teaching in a music school, so that's different.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take our first question from Neetu. Hi, Neetu.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I want to know what your question is, and is it directed to everybody or anybody in specific?
To Kamakshi.
Yeah.
I'm always having a 3-year-old daughter myself. I'm always intrigued about how soon do kids really assimilate Hindustani musical music. Music, to what extent do they really enjoy it? Is it something that we initially need to force it on them, or they really start, enjoying it the way we would like them to?
Okay, so I'll take this back a little bit. Before coming to Hindustani music, I'd like to talk about music in general, because music is actually not Hindustani or Carnatic or Western or anything of that sort. It is an art form which is pure in itself. So children begin to imbibe music from the time of conception. So that's the point where it begins, okay? Then you take it through the elements of music, which is again not specific to anything in particular. Living in this country and understanding Hindustani music, I have seen that the notes, the rags, the scales that are used have a healing sort of a quality, which works with newborn babies, children from 1 and 2. Mozart has also created music for pregnant women, and so music is actually a very vast subject. Coming to Hindustani music in particular, I'd say that's something the children start learning from the time they're 3 or 4, but not necessarily the rags again. That is a very natural process. So if they're exposed to music, they will understand the scales eventually, because the scales are also common to Western music. So the methodology of teaching Indian music, according to me, is very creative, because we don't have to read or write, we have to create. So that's what makes it more interesting for me, and that's what I think the children gain from, because there is no right or wrong. There is no paper that you have to follow or play and sing.
That mantra actually works for everybody. There's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong, because art can never have a right or wrong answer. So I think, and then if you expose it, see, it has to be, like you said, it has to be demystified, because it's been said, oh, you have to sit and practice for so many hours and do this for so many hours. Yes, you do, but that happens only naturally. You want to practice, and only your guru or your teacher can make you want to practice. That's the other beautiful part about Indian music. It's about the relationship with your teacher, who becomes everything for you. She's your provider. You chat with her about life. You do things. I think for all the art forms, you have to build a relationship with your teacher, and that's when they get interested in what you're teaching them, because they're trusting you.
And I completely agree with Kamakshi on that. It's the teacher who builds that level of interest and your level of dedication towards that.
And that's why we chose Indian classical music, because the whole lineage of the gurus, learning from one guru to the other guru, so there's nothing fixed then. X guru has taught something which the next guru has taken and then made it his or hers, and then passed it on and then passed it on. So it never ends. Right. That is why I think we don't need to push our children if they have the right teacher and the right exposure for Indian classical music. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And actually, the reason I also asked this question is, especially in Delhi, if there's a musical concert which is a Western music, kids are allowed. But the moment it's Indian classical, children are not allowed, no entry. So I don't know how to introduce my daughter to this to music, because she enjoys live music much more than a CD playing. But I don't get the opportunity, to kind of expose her to it.
I'm going to just say something on how it's going to be taken. But unfortunately, our Indian musicians also have this need to prove that Indian classical music is just serious, and they've been doing it for so many years, and this is how it's done, So unfortunately, that aspect is also there, But if now slowly, I think there are lots of concerts and things that the children can be exposed to, where Indian classical music is not necessarily 2 hours of a particular rag, It can be so many other things. So if you begin with that, even simple songs that are composed within rags, it is pretty much Indian classical music. It's where we begin. We all begin with do, re, mi, sa, re, ga, ma. So what's the harm with that? So even if they're Indian songs or songs that are sung to a rag or in a slightly melodious way, I think that's something your daughter would enjoy, which is what we're seeing here. I mean, in Bombay, in our circles.
Kamakshi, if I were to add to Neetu's question, so when we're growing up, or when you were, like you said, Mozart has music for infants, and you say that this is for their IQ, or the names that come immediately. That listen to this, listen to this, listen to this. Any recommendations for what parents who would like to expose their kids to Hindustani classical music? Stuff that they could pick up, or things that they could download. Like these are or which are relevant for children this age that would help them.
See, I'd say any light listening, like expose your children to Indian classical music from the time they're born, from the time of conception rather, so they get used to listening to it. Most of us are used to listening to rhymes. We're used to listening to the na 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 those tunes. That's what we're used to listening to. But as I was growing up, I've only listened to Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia's flute in the morning.
Right.
I was not given a choice. That was played for us in the morning.
Right.
So okay, you resist it, but then if your father's playing it every day, you don't have a choice. And then you begin to love it, and then you realize, and after you learn and you're exposed to more music, you begin to really enjoy it. So I would say any of the greats have beautiful CDs, but start off with something while waking up, while going to sleep, because that's where your mind is in a subconscious state, and it is absorbing without having to really think. So when you're, like my Guruji says, children can sing what adults can sing, and that's what they do. If anybody has seen that, that's what they do, because they're not thinking, they're imbibing and they're enjoying it. Then the thinking comes, and then the brain comes into the picture, which is much later. So any of the greats, while they're doing activities, while they're doing art, that's a lovely time.
So it doesn't need to be confined.
It doesn't have to be, sit down and listen to 10 minutes of this music.
Music hour. This is your
music hour.
designated.
Never
There
music
is nothing
hour.
designated.
So that's the best way of doing it. Try that, and please let me know if it worked.
Perfect.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.
Actually, I have one more question, but I'll first let Sangeeta ask a question because she has to leave pretty soon.
Okay. Sangeeta, your question?
Yeah, hi. I have a question for Natasha. So I know you're working with trash and all of that. How environmentally conscious do you think children are today? And is that something that, that's taught at school? Is that something they imbibe from their parents? Because we hear so much about consumerism, etc., which does lead to waste at the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
How do you think children can become more conscious?
I think they imbibe their parents. I mean, especially if you're talking about smaller kids, it's amazing, and it's a little scary also when you realize they actually mirror you.
Yes.
So, for example, I work with plastic bottles. Okay,
Right.
and I've been making a lot of cool things with plastic bottles. We're making wristbands and trinkets and pencil boxes and self-watering planters. So there was this situation where we actually needed plastic bottles, and I was like, oh come on, we need plastic bottles, where are we getting it from? And then I have a 2-year-old, and of course my husband was like, okay fine, we'll go and ask the Rati guy. And we were on our bike, and my son saw some plastic bottle over there. He's like, there's a bottle, go on. And of course my husband's like, no, don't take it up from the road. And he's like, it's a bottle, mama wants a bottle. And he just went, took it and gave it to the husband. Take it and give it to mama.
That's sweet.
So the important thing is that when you are conscious of the environment and you don't want to litter, and you start, you also put these things in them that, so many lovely things can be made of it. So why do people want to litter? They copy that.
Yeah, that's true. Sangeeta, does that answer your question?
Yes, kind of. So it's more imbibed from the parents than.
But Natasha, if I may to add on to Sangeeta's question, do you feel that there are things that we can do in our day-to-day lives that kind of make our kids more conscious about, reuse, recycle,
Yes,
upcycle?
lots of things. So that's what my company Dirt is all about, actually.
Okay.
So we basically first we compost. Okay, so we have a lot of these home composters and things like that.
Okay, can you tell our audience what is composting?
Yes.
Okay, so
Sorry.
composting is a very simple process where all your wet waste or all your food waste, okay, that
Right.
could be veg and non-veg, anything, can be converted into a compost that is called manure,
Yeah.
and then used to grow your own edible plants. So that's what we do.
Trash your yesterday's
Yes.
leftovers become
Today.
Yeah. So it's a very important circle, so that you understand that today's food waste will become will get composted tomorrow and give you the after's meal.
meal. Exactly.
So dirt is basically very valuable.
Right.
Okay, and to help them do this, okay, we do a lot of workshops for kids. We get them to our store. I show if you want to do it at home, it's also very simple. You'd basically this is a very DIY thing. Okay, so you could just make a small hole in whatever pot of yours, a planter pot, and put your waste in it, and then just put a little bit of mud. One other thing which I did is I put a plastic bottle on the top. I kind of half dug a hole. I put a plastic bottle in the top, and whatever waste we were we were putting it inside the bottle.
Right.
That bottle was only 100 ml. So it's so
Small.
much.
Small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put stuff in it for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So Anaya and I have 2 children. They were like, "Where do you think it's going?" So I was like, "Yeah, that's a good answer. Let's take out the bottle. Let's see where it's gone." So the thing is, 90% of your food is air and water.
Right.
Okay. So of course the water comes out, and if you're putting it in a pot, it gets absorbed by the plants.
Right.
Okay, those plants are growing very well, and as it compost, it becomes a manure. So that little thing at the end, when we found mud. So she's like, of course there were right at the top there was like some orange or something which we could actually see. But I told you we were doing it for two weeks. 2 weeks. So at the end we were seeing mud. So she's like, we only put this much. We've been putting it for so long.
Yeah.
Where's the other stuff all
I'm
gone?
really excited to try this one.
even
Where is it?
Yeah, so it actually composts and it looks like mud,
Yeah.
but it is very, very, the compost that you generate then is very nutritious.
Very rich.
Yeah, it's very
rich food. Yeah.
Yes, it's very simple. It's like how we give our children a balanced diet
Right.
of so many things. We'd be giving the same thing to our plants. Our plants will be growing much faster. So we have at our place in 4 inches we have our basil, peppermint, palak, methi, all thriving. And our whole idea is to allow you to do this outside your windows. So
Right.
Oh.
understand that you have no space, right?
Absolutely.
And you
that's
have more
something you
time.
need to consider.
So we have these reservoirs, built-in reservoirs, planters with built-in reservoirs, which would take 4 inches or maybe 6 inches of space maximum
right.
on your window. It can be the entire length of your window. So we have done methi and palak for 3 months. It grows for 3 months, okay?
Wow.
And you just take out the outside leaves.
Yeah.
So my kids are all excited because
I think
they're
this is such
plucking
an interesting way of getting our kids to
eat healthy.
eat healthy, and
Yeah.
even get involved in their
Involved
food.
in the process.
So then all those food tantrums, I think, will kind of
Absolutely.
Exactly.
come to
Because okay, everyone got fed up of methi and palak. So now we're doing herbs,
Right.
which is way better.
Yeah.
And what's cool is on Sunday or Saturday, Sunday when we are all at home, I'll tell him, okay, go and get for me some basil, go and get for me some peppermint.
Right.
Yeah,
That
so,
really makes them very excited.
yeah. So we are
Those
plucking and we are making our own salad, and they're like, we grew it and we're eating it.
True.
Yeah, that's all into.
Sorry to cut that, Natasha, but anything else that you feel like they could be doing, which you feel like they can imbibe in their day-to-day lives to kind of make it more, so one is obviously the composting bit of it, but even in terms of any art, or like she mentioned, you created a cushion out of trash.
Yeah.
How does all of that come about?
Come on. come about? I'll tell you. If you want your kids to do something like this, just give them. What I would do is I would give my kids some project. Like when she would be making me wanting a doll house, I'd be like, okay, listen. Supposing if we have to make a doll house, how would you do that?
Okay, so make projects and give them.
Right.
And you just make set them up with maybe 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
Let's see what they get.
Right.
Okay.
Things which are lying in the house,
Like-
which you can, let's say cardboard box, which is lying.
I
in
have my daughter loves collecting medicine boxes. I don't know for what any, like the soframycin, and then she'll keep painting all of them, and then finally she'll construct, like even a perfume box.
You know, that is
so
cool.
What's
She has
interesting is
She has them even shoe boxes. We're just not allowed to throw boxes out of the house.
and that's fascinating because we're sitting here. When we were coming up, we saw that huge glow, and you saw those buildings. They're made from these boxes, so that, and we were saying it's so fantastic and it's so appropriate for this place. So you can really create a whole city, and it's fantastic. There's so much you can do with something like this. It's a really cool idea. I mean, instead of we do Lego, this is a form of really constructing
And then she
something.
kind of
here.
draw with the markers. Okay, this is my house. This is your floor. This is Dadi's floor, and
Nice.
and this
really
is my
lovely.
school, and the whole thing will happen around that. But I like her idea. That just if they want something, I think it's also a way to kind of curb consumerism.
Absolutely.
Because we were discussing before this that acha abhi Christmas aa raha hai, you want a Christmas tree, let's go get a Christmas tree, let's get those
To make the ornaments.
Absolutely.
You just make the ornaments.
You made a lot of ornaments.
I went crazy that afternoon, but it was so
But
worth
it turned out so beautiful.
Yeah, we just use like a lot of old stuff, paper, glitter, whatever I've been collecting for a while, thinking no, it's going to get messy, it's going to be messy. I said chalo aaj so I'm just going to go all out. It's going to be 5 hours of cleaning, but let me just do it. So we said no Christmas ornaments from Crawford Market.
Absolutely.
That was the diktat in my
And that
mind.
is the start.
That's
That's the start.
It's the project and using what's there. Like we were discussing earlier, what do you do with all the stuff which your child creates? So you use that same.
Yeah, I do that.
You
So tearing is great fun. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Oh, they love it. That's
So you tear bits and you collage it into. So you have this sort of, and that's good because you have the reuse bit where you say one thing can become another thing.
Yeah.
But you also have the tangential thinking that if it exists in one form, it can be visualized in another form.
True.
Those patterns, if they're put in a certain way, can go become a boat. So your medicine packets, if they're torn into bits, can become a forest.
Right.
Depending on how you do it,
Of course.
So it's the whole tangential thing. Anything can become anything else
Absolutely.
if you look at it differently.
Yes,
You look at it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I also collect a lot of junk because of that. It's like, this might be useful. And then I have these bags of stuff, and I'm like, oh god, now I need to do something useful with it.
Yeah. So that we'll come up with these spikes, right? That make it
absolutely.
so we have to do it. Kamakshi, coming to you, how can one create create stories through music? I mean, I find that while I completely respect what Shinibali is trying to do, and I'm really curious that how are you going to make stories come alive through music
Just
at Kahani Karnival?
find out what she's doing at Kahani Karnival. It's very interesting. She'll tell you. She's going to tell it through a story format.
Yeah, we're doing
Which is on the 16th.
On the 16th at 5 o'clock is the sound space is opening the carnival. So we're doing a very interesting concept because the rags are one element that puts it together is the time cycle. So every rag is sung at a particular time of day. So how did this come about? So we created a story called Samay, which is of course time, and the children will be singing according to the time of day. So if it's morning, the rag which is sung is Bhairav. So they understand, and they their voice, the way they sing, the expression, the thought process is of the rag which is of the morning. So obviously it's not upbeat and loud.
Yeah.
So that's a whole story weaved into that, like how this little boy Samay, initially when there were no clocks, what would he do? I mean, how would he understand, okay, now it's school time, or then it's this time, or whatever. So, with the sound of his Guruji singing a song, he would relate it to the time of the day. So, if it's morning, it'll be something that's with the lower notes, that's waking you up. And then when it moves to the afternoon, it's a more upbeat sort of a song. And the evening is more like, the sunset time, or so that's the story that you see it at the carnival.
Okay.
That's how they understand. So that's
Yes,
yeah.
very interesting.
That's the story. I mean, and the children, of course, sing the pieces that they've learned
Right.
with. So everything is a story. I mean, music. Every rag has a story. When we're learning the Chota Khayals that you're singing, which are the shorter songs, they're all based on Radha Krishna and those stories. So you have to understand where it's coming from. For music, and I think all art forms, you have to know where you're coming from, and that's always a story. So we've learned through stories. So many times our classes would be just a story about some Guruji somewhere who created this piece, which is again a story that we're learning from. So I think music is all about expression, and stories are expression. So
Okay. Shinibali, coming back to you,
Right.
what do we, things that are like a must attend and watch out for at Kahani Karnival this year?
So there are 27 workshops,
Okay.
sessions, which will happen from 10 o'clock till 7:30, and on the 17th. So we open on the 16th with the concert, and there'll be a storytelling from 4 to 6. So it's very difficult for me to choose from that 27. All are my babies.
Okay.
Okay, and I love all of them. But I'm trying to think if I had to pick up one from each genre. Music, they are doing the main one, but we also have NSPA, that's National Street for Performing Arts. So we'll be doing very interesting things across the city.
Right.
They'll be having a concert, plus they'll be doing a little workshop with children. They're teaching them little songs from Uttarakhand or Goa. So that will be a little thing. And then for art, there is Madhumita, which is going to be a really interesting session, because she's going to be doing these postcards inspired from those stone sculptures which are in the museum garden. She's drawing from them.
Correction, I won't be doing the post.
The children will be doing it. The children will be writing. I don't know what she has in store.
They'll be making up
But I'm
stories.
very excited. In fact, I don't know how to even draw a line. I'm terrible. But I don't think there'll be much drawing involved. But if I had the time and I wasn't running like a headless chicken, I would have loved to attend.
Right.
And Natasha, of course, has a huge following anyways. So she
Natasha,
will,
what are you doing at Kahani Karnival?
So we're going to be making everything you just spoke of all together.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be making self-watering planters from plastic bottles.
Okay.
So the self-watering thing is that you need to water your plant just maybe once or twice a month, and there's lots of things to it. We're going to be using compost in it so that your plant grows well.
Yeah.
And we're going to use edible plants so that you connect with your plant.
Right.
Okay, and you will take care of it.
Right.
Okay, and then since it's we're also going to be giving you some fun parts of it. So there's going to be some. Actually, that's the
Surprise.
The surprise.
Okay. We're not doing that,
and we also have a play to end it. That's the finale.
Okay.
And we did that last year as well. But this year, it's again something which we were. Kahani Karnival has been very clear that it's not just about being elitist in English, everything is English.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Hindustani in it.
Right.
So we're starting with Hindustani classical music and ending with a Hindustani musical play.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's called Dhara Ki Kahani. It's in Hindi. It's done by an NST repertory. They're based in Bombay. 2 people, NST alumni. And it's got an environment, how do you, it's again got the conservation message going out. But what really excites me is that it's in Hindi, which is so important. We just jump and say, okay, it's just English. And our children really don't know too much
We're
of the
so
vernacular.
blessed that our kids, like everybody talks about being multilingual, but they don't realize that the best part of being born in India is that you're anyways learning 4 languages.
You take it for granted. You don't have an
You don't
option.
realize that
Yeah,
ये language भी
absolutely.
सीखना है, ये भी सीखना है, but
your child is anyway speaking Hindi, English,
Marathi,
and like whatever
and
your mother
whatever.
tongue, right?
Absolutely.
So, like in my case, speak Gujarati. So I feel like so blessed. My kids are anyways learning four
Absolutely.
languages. But I must confess that, I don't think a lot of parents or a lot of kids read multilingual.
No, they don't.
Even or are being read to in multilingual. So all our Indian authors who write in different languages or books which are written in different languages, I feel sad that our kids grow up reading about meadows and all of that.
And that's the other fascinating thing this year in Kahani Karnival. Our book partner, and we have one, Kahani Tree, she specializes in Indian books.
Yes.
So she'll have a range of multilingual books and Hindi books.
Yes.
And for us, it was very important that the stories are told through languages.
Right.
So we again have another poetry session where she's doing the poetry will be in it'll be in Malayalam, it'll be in Marathi, it'll be in Gujarati.
Yeah.
It'll also have Spike Mulligan.
Correct.
So Edward Lear.
Yeah.
So she's doing a complete khichdi, but it's just celebrating languages, which is what Bhavdaji Lad is all about. It's a museum which is more about celebrating the community and the way the city, because see, Bombay, the city itself is a complete melting pot. And Bhavdaji Lad, which is the oldest museum in the city, was just, so there are these fantastic models which are there in the museum, which are all about communities. So, that was the main thing this year. If there's a theme we have to go by, it was celebrating communities, celebrating exploration. I mean, those are the main things we are running around. How do you do that? How do you celebrate language?
Right.
So that's something too. I mean, I'm also looking forward to. I hope it's fun for everyone.
Perfect. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Today. Don't forget, it's the 16th of January, 5 p.m. is when Soundspace opens the carnival, and 17th of January, where all the different sessions are lined up. Don't forget to check out their schedule and register your kids for a workshop. And thank you from all of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.